Hi guys, how you doing? I just thought I'd do another wee video. I'm trying to get into a habit of this, just kind of, and I'm basing the video content kind of of conversations that I'm having during the week with people. So, hopefully, if there's something relevant in there for some of you, some of it might be completely irrelevant to some people, and if that's the case, then I apologise. And there might be a wee bit of rambling in here because I've not got a sort of like notes of things to say. I'm just going to try and talk and say things as they come into my head, right? So if it comes up across as a bit off in tangents or rambling, then I apologise, but I'm going to try and keep the video quite short for that reason. So first of all, I just wanted to say thank you. Like the yesterday's session was a Tuesday, week 6. Amazing energy at the sessions. Like significantly large turnout considering it was a fair fortnight, fair weekend, particularly the last two classes of the evening actually. And the atmosphere is amazing when it's like that. It's so good that so many people are coming in and they're able to apply like the intensity. You guys are applying at a great level of intensity, of effort, of concentration, to get the tempos that we're asking for, to execute the movements so well, covering lots of different exercises that are working different muscles in the body, and with the main focus of getting stronger. And considering the amount of you that are coming to the classes, for the to be that amount of like order and like consistent effort from everyone is just thanks to you. Like thanks to you guys, because you're coming in and you're just getting your heads down. You're just listening to the instructions, which are not always maybe displayed as easily as they should be, because I can sometimes go off in tangents and stuff. But you guys are just, you seem to know that, and you know this, you know the score, and you're just coming in and it's like it's literally moving like clockwork. And because of that, it's allowing every single person to get a really high level of quality training done. And that's just thanks to the collective effort of all of you. So yeah, thank you. That's basically like what I felt last night. It was like I kind of took a step back and just felt a lot of gratitude and satisfaction that a session that would do an individual a lot of good can be carried out on such a large scale to that amount of people with such like seamlessness. And that's just thanks to you guys and your patience and your sort of, as I said, your concentration and your willingness to like get stuck in and work hard and train hard and just get it done. So it's a real like, yeah, I don't know, it's an honour to be part of that. So thank you. So 6 weeks in, the main topic of this conversation, I guess, is the fact that in 6 weeks, it's usually a sort of natural benchmark, your halfway point for people that are maybe wanting to check for their progress and on a tangible level. And for a lot of folk, that's the weighing scale. So I understand that your weight and the weighing scale is one marker of progress, but try and remember that it's more of an outcome, of, as opposed to something to be focusing on a daily or weekly basis. So I know I've maybe mentioned this stuff before, but I think it's worth going over again, that because you might be feeling good, you might be getting stronger in the sessions, and that's clear to me. I mean, I can't believe the amount of folk. Sometimes I find it like amazing to see, just like it's almost disbelieving, like the amount of people that I can see getting stronger. Like and it's because you're coming consistently and you're just going through the process. You're ticking off the boxes in terms of you're doing the tempos that are required, and you're doing the correct number of sets and reps that are required to get stronger. And so many of you are doing that, as I said at the start. And because of that, you are getting somewhere. Like you're getting, a lot of folk are getting stronger, and there's lots of little wee victories and little wee wins for different people in different ways happening. So it's important that you try and like focus on these things and not let like your scale weight suddenly like make you feel deflated if you feel that it's not reflective of the efforts that you feel you're putting into the sessions. And maybe the efforts you're putting into like eating better out with the sessions, and sort of making sort of better eating choices and that kind of thing that are going to facilitate progress. So just try and remember, weight loss is slow. The same as strength building, that's a slow process too, but weight loss is slow, and it can also be very changeable from a day-to-day basis and a week-to-week basis. So for that reason, I'm not saying completely disregard weight, that it's irrelevant. It's not irrelevant. The more weight you've got to lose, probably the more relevant the weight is on the scales, but um, despite that, you should still just not give it too much focus. So I'd say, by all means, if you want to like weigh yourself, do it at the start of like week 1 or whatever. But then just ditch the scales, like not forever, but at least for, I'd say just forget about them for 6, 8, 10 weeks. Especially if you're seeing progress in other areas. Okay, so For example, the best way to measure aesthetic goals is definitely like taking pictures, like before pictures and then further down the line pictures, and take actual measurements themselves. These tell a much bigger, clearer story than the scale weight does. Okay, focus on the performance, focus on what you are focusing on it, because I can see it is happening, but just continue to focus on your performance, like your strength increases, fitness increases, your ability to run continuously for 10 or 15 minutes, that kind of thing, and focus on how you feel in terms of energy levels. Do you feel better? You might feel a bit more. I don't know about you, but when I start doing weights again consistently, I start to feel like a bit more self confident. Like, and I don't mean like physically. I mean like in terms of like being able to get up and go and like do things and be more active and be more capable of, I don't know, playing with the boys for an extra half an hour in the garden and not feel tired. These kind of things. So these are the main things you should sort of like allow yourself to feel the benefits of, and not allow the scale weight to distract from that. And if you weigh yourself regularly, like daily or weekly, it will distract from that. Even if you're telling yourself it's not, the very fact that you're doing it regularly shows that it's going to be a distraction. So, like I said, I'm not saying ignore it completely, because there is obviously correlations between like obesity and health, but you'll often find that if you can focus on changing habits instead, if you've got weight to lose, it will slowly start to come off anyway. The closer or the less overall weight you have to lose. So, for example, if you feel like I've got a stone to lose, or I've got a stone and a half to lose, or I've got half a stone to lose, that's when the weighing scales become even less relevant, particularly when you're training the way we're training, which is strength training. And that's simply because, like, although a pound of fat and a pound of muscle like are the same, right? Because you hear this like weight is muscle's heavier than fat. Well, it can't be. Like, obviously a kilogram's a kilogram. A kilogram of muscle isn't heavier than a kilogram of fat because it's a kilogram. But what actually is happening though is that muscle takes up less space than fat mass. So, and what is possible, especially if you're fairly new to all this sort of strength work and building muscle, and you've not got a lot of weight to lose, is that you can gain muscle. So you might gain a wee bit of muscle tissue, and that could be offset with some fat, losing some fat mass. Okay, so if they're offset, so if you lose 2 kilos of fat but gain 2 kilos of muscle, then on the scales the difference is zero. Obviously, it's net zero, so you're still weighing the same. So if you were to go to the scales, you'd be like, oh, I can't believe I've not made any difference. I don't get this. Like, I feel like I've trained really hard now for 12 weeks. I feel like I've got stronger. Why is my scale weight not the same? Or why is it the same? So although the weight's the same, because muscle, it takes up less space than fat, you'd get smaller. So you'd drop a dress size, for example, or you'd drop a notch in your belt, because you'd be smaller, and that would also show in terms of pictures if you were to take before and after pictures. And the reason before and after pictures for you are important is because you're not going to notice the difference looking in the mirror every day. Like, you're not going to see it, because obviously, whereas if you take a picture and then look at that picture 12 weeks down the line again, and compare it to a new picture, then you're much more likely, if you compare and contrast them, you'll see differences. So these, of course, are the aesthetic sides of training, and I understand like that we've all got a wee bit of like desire to feel as good or look as good as we want to feel, or whatever. I'll get mixed up there, but do you know what I mean? But as I said, they try and not put too much focus on those things, because it's, as I said, weight loss is a fairly, in some respects, it's a fairly arbitrary number, and that moves me on to the next point I wanted to make, which is to do with the calorie burn at sessions. So you'll often see like sessions advertised like based on the calories you can burn at those sessions. And I know that a lot of folk now wear heart rate monitors, and they're probably measuring the amount of calories they're burning at the sessions at the shed as well. And I think I'm assuming that that's because you assume that if it's a big calorie burn, then it's a better session, or it's like that's a reflection on the quality of the session, is how many calories you burned at that session. But that's not, they're not related. And certainly from a fat loss point of view, they're not related, because again, out of context, like the amount of calories you burn at a session is irrelevant. Like, because it depends on what you're doing the rest of the day. It depends on how much activity you're doing the rest of the day, and it also depends on how much you're eating and drinking the rest of the day. So if you assume that there's a baseline number of calories you burn in an hour, like I need to work it out roughly, but let's suppose if you're just lying on the couch, you burn 150 to 200 calories in an hour. Now that's probably not as much as that. Well, it depends on your weight and your height and stuff, but it's probably not as much as that, right? But let's suppose it's 150 calories, okay? And your maximum amount of calories you can burn in any session, if you were to go at 100 miles an hour and do the most insane workout the world has ever seen and risk heart failure, it will probably be about 800 calories, I imagine. And that's for someone who's extremely fit. So you've only got there's a minimum amount you can burn anyway doing nothing, and there's a maximum amount you can burn doing the most insane workout of all time anyway. So for that reason, like, is it really worth it going to your maximum effort for when you can just do like a bit less effort and for the difference of a few hundred calories? When you consider the context that a few hundred calories is, I don't know, half a slice of pizza or a couple of bits of chocolate. So from a as I said, from a fat loss point of view, it's that's why it's kind of irrelevant, particularly when you then take into the consideration, because it's important that you consider this, because we're focusing on strength training. And if you remember, the quality of a session will be determined, or the intensity of a session, should I say, will be determined primarily by like the rest periods in between. So a maximum strength set. So the intensity of a session, maximum strength is the maximum intensity that you can go at in a session, obviously, in terms of like it's a maximum effort, like in terms of like, so the squats, for example, they're close to a maximum effort in your legs if you're getting the weight right. But in order to like maintain that intensity, whether it be bench press or pull-ups or squats, in order to maintain that intensity, you'll notice that you need to have rest in between. So if you were to do like a maximum number of like pull-ups and your muscles went until your muscles failed, you wouldn't be able to do, I suppose when you get 5 or 6, you wouldn't be able to do that again unless you gave your muscles at least maybe 5 minutes, 6 minutes rest to repeat that level of intensity. So in other words, there's a correlation between like the amount of like the intensity and the amount of work you can do within a session anyway. So doing a maximum effort on 5 pull-ups won't burn a lot of calories, but the intensity required to work those muscles to their maximum is huge. So there's not calories burned is usually more linked to just like a lot of the time it's like more geared towards like the cardiovascular side of exercise, which is by definition like low intensity, because you can do it for a prolonged period of time. So for example, like weightlifting and sprinting, they're maximal intensity activities because you can only do them for a short, you can only sprint for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and then there's a huge drop off, and you need to then take a rest before you can repeat the bout. Whereas like a long run, the reason you can run for a long time is because by definition it's a lower intensity effort, so you can maintain it for longer. Sometimes talking about these things can be quite confusing, and you might raise more questions than answers, and if they do, that's great. Ask them. I'd love to, because then it'd make it easier for me to then learn how to explain it in simpler terms. Sometimes I think I confuse things, but just so in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that calorie burn isn't the be all and end all, and it shouldn't. In fact, it's so far away from the be all and end all when it comes to exercise. I would say it's the one thing that you should completely forget about as well, because it is irrelevant. I know it's satisfying to see, yes, I've burned a certain number of calories, but you very quickly fall into the trap of defining a workout by the calorie burn. And I've seen it year after year. I've been doing this now for 20 years, like in terms of like being involved in coaching and stuff from the age of 16, and I've done it myself as well. Like I've gone through stages. I've gone through like you might go on the treadmill, for example, and you'll stop the treadmill once the calorie burn hits 300 calories or 400 calories. You'll be satisfied once it hits that number, and there's no real purpose to it. You're not focusing on a progressive element. There's no progressive overload. There's no week-to-week progressive overload, and so it just becomes, you become a slave to the numbers or on the calorie burn or the weighing scales. So it's just try and just not worry or focus too much on what the calories on your workout was, plus the fact that they're not even that accurate anyway. So they're not giving you a full picture. So instead, learn to like work within a certain level of intensity. Recognize where you are with an exercise, and are you progressing it over a 6-week period? Do you see a difference? Like, do you feel you can manage it and you couldn't manage it before? can you do a 10-second eccentric on a pull-up, load and pull-up face when before you can only do a 6-second eccentric? These are very real, clear definitions or clear evidence of you developing your physical body's strength. Whereas going on the treadmill or measuring the calorie burn is just a case of continuing to go and move and get it done until it takes that number. It tells you nothing about the goal of the session. It tells you nothing about what you achieved within that session, apart from burning energy. But you'd burn energy anyway if you walked for an hour, and which is also great exercise. So in terms of general, like, obviously, like, burning up energy and like expending energy, that's something that is really good to do. You do it when you walk. But when it comes to actual training, I would try not to be a slave to like what the calories say, because it doesn't necessarily give you a good give you a indicator of what's happening on a week to week level. Because in terms of strength training, you're breaking down the muscles, allowing them to grow back stronger. But if you're just focusing on the calories, that's the intensity isn't there, so the muscles won't break down. So you can just continue to do it, but it's not going to get you anywhere. Yeah, you'll get aerobically a bit fitter, maybe a bit more conditioned, but there's a glass ceiling to that as well. So yeah, that's just a couple of things I wanted to remind you of. Don't focus too much on the calories, on the sessions. Don't focus too much on the weighing scale. Try and forget about it, especially if you're feeling good in other areas, and just focus on developing your strength, developing your general fitness, and seeing progress in other ways out with the sessions as well, in terms of how you feel, how much energy you've got, maybe your sleep's improving, which all ties in with how you're eating. Try to get more vegetables in, decent protein intakes, as you know. So yeah, I think that's it. That's just, as I said, I'm just kind of talking as things come into my head, so there's no point just continue to talk. So I'm going to stop the video here, but see if there's any specific topics or conversations or questions you have. I welcome them, because it just makes my job of giving information out a bit easier, because then I know what to kind of talk about. So I think we'll leave it there. There's nothing to, I'm sure as soon as I stop this video I'll think, oh damn it, I wanted to mention that and I'll have forgotten, but I can't do anything about that. So I just want to say well done. You're doing great. As I said, it's a real privilege to be able to train you guys and to see you responding to the training and seeing you get stronger. It's like the ultimate sort of buzz. So in terms of being a coach, so yeah, just thanks, just keep it up, and we'll see you for more on Thursday, Friday.